It's our stories. Welcome to a world where real stories sounds like a movie script.
You guys, I need you to sit down for this one because, honestly, even writing it makes my hands shake a little. Last month, after 8 grueling, painstaking years of working literally every possible job I could, living in cramped apartments with roommates, skipping vacations, avoiding every indulgence, and saving almost every penny I ever earned, I finally bought my first house, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a backyard that wasn't just a patch of dirt with weeds growing like crazy, a kitchen I could actually cook in without tripping over a chair, and a little office space that felt like it was made just for me. And then, within days of signing the papers, after finally feeling that hard-earned sense of freedom, I got a text from my dad that made my stomach drop like I had just been punched in the gut and then thrown off a cliff. The text was short, almost innocuous in format, but the words themselves carried the weight of an entire world collapsing. We need to discuss the house situation. Call me immediately. Naturally, I thought, maybe they just want to see the house. Maybe they want to celebrate. Maybe they'll finally visit without asking for something. Nope. I called immediately, trying to keep my voice calm. And as soon as my dad picked up, the tone of his voice, calm but full of this ominous certainty, made my brain freeze. Son, we've been talking as a family, and we think it's only fair that Melissa gets the house. I laughed. I actually laughed. My brain thought, surely this is a joke, some weird prank where I'd wake up and my parents would be waiting with balloons saying, just kidding. But no, my dad continued with the gravitas of a Supreme Court justice delivering a verdict. She's struggling with student loans. She can't afford rent in the city. You're doing well. You can easily buy another house. At this point, I could feel my blood draining from my face. Every single moment, every extra shift, every skip night out with friends, every ramen dinner instead of a restaurant meal, every penny saved over 8 years. It all boiled down to, you can just buy another house. It's fine. Then my mom got on the phone. Sweet at first, her voice almost gentle, the kind of voice that usually comforts a scared kid. But that gentleness was like a velvet hammer, hitting me in ways I couldn't have prepared for. We raised you, supported you, and now it's time to give back to the family. Your sister deserves stability. You paid for her entire education. Don't be selfish, I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to hang up and pretend this wasn't happening. But I couldn't. I listened as they told me, word by word, how morally obligated I was to hand over my hard-earned house to my sister simply because she needed it more. And then, a week later it happened. Papers were served. My own parents were suing me for my house. I just stared at the papers for a long time. I couldn't breathe. My legs went numb. My mind was running 1,000 miles an hour thinking, is this real? Did I accidentally enter some alternate universe where sanity doesn't exist? Before I go further, you need to understand why the situation was so devastating. I'm the eldest of 2 kids. I started working at 16, grocery stores, pizza delivery, odd jobs, whatever I could get my hands on. At 18, I became financially independent. That's when I bought my first car, a 1998 Honda with 200,000 miles on it, for $800. That car wasn't just a vehicle, it was a symbol, a tiny taste of freedom and ownership that I had earned with sweat and patience. I went to community college while working full-time, then coding boot camps, IT certifications, and eventually a career in cybersecurity, where I've been for 8 years. Every paycheck, every bonus, every extra hour worked went straight into savings. No vacations, no fancy clothes, no eating out like other people my age. I scrimped, sacrificed, and planned every single step with the ultimate goal, owning a house of my own. Meanwhile, my sister Melissa, the golden child, went to private university, got a master's in art history, and even studied abroad in Europe for 2 semesters. Everything for her was paid. Tuition, housing, spending money, spring break trips. She even got a car for her sweet 16. My parents adored her and made sure the entire world knew it. And me? I wasn't bitter, not really. I understood the difference in opportunities. I was grateful for the lessons, the support in small ways, but I didn't expect anyone to just give me a house. I worked for it. I earned it. I saved for 8 years, living in shared apartments with roommates, never taking a vacation, never buying anything fancy. And finally, last month I signed the papers. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a backyard, $385,000, 20% down. mortgage in my name, fully my own. And then the nightmare began, the lawsuit. Oh God, the lawsuit. My parents claimed that I owed them $300,000 for raising me. Not kidding. They itemized every single expense, from tuition, housing, and food, down to a $12.99 Happy Meal from 2003. According to them, Melissa needed the house more because she had student loans, and I, apparently, had the means to buy another property without blinking. And the kicker? They wanted me to keep paying the mortgage for 2 years while Melissa got settled into it. I remember sitting on my couch, staring at the papers, unable to move, my mind spinning like a car engine in overdrive. I felt rage, disbelief, exhaustion, and a deep sense of betrayal all at once. I had literally bought the house in my dreams, and my parents wanted to take it from me. My own parents. My family. I knew hiring a lawyer was financially impossible. It would cost at least $10,000. And honestly, this whole situation was so absurd, so surreal, that I figured I could represent myself. I've always been meticulous with paperwork. I've always been thorough in research. I started digging into legal precedents, writing down timelines, collecting every possible document that proved I had earned and paid for this house myself. Then I found out the aunt angle, my dad's sister, who apparently had been secretly financing the lawsuit, a woman who had always held a grudge because I didn't invite her to my community college graduation. Apparently, skipping her attendance was a declaration that I thought I was better than everyone else because I worked in tech. Meanwhile, Melissa was posting old Pinterest photos of houses on social media, captioned, "Can't wait to make this house a home. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for fighting for what's right. Aunt and family first." My parents even tried to rope my grandparents into the drama. Grandpa literally laughed and told them off, while Grandma shook her head and said, "This is ridiculous. I spent nights preparing bank statements, mortgage records, emails, proof of financial independence, proof of work and earnings since 18, everything. I was building an unassailable fortress of evidence." Then the call came from their lawyer, settlement discussion. They wanted full transfer of the house, payment of the mortgage for 24 months, $3,100,000 for emotional damages, and a written apology for splitting the family. I actually laughed. I snorted and then hung up. The morning of the court hearing, I woke up with my stomach in knots, my heart thudding like a jackhammer, and my hands trembling slightly as I zipped up my suit jacket. I stood in front of the mirror for what felt like hours, checking every detail, tie straight, collar crisp, shoes polished to a mirror shine. Today wasn't just another day. Today, my entire life, my hard-earned freedom, and the house I had fought for over 8 years were on the line. I packed my folder with every single document I had meticulously collected. Mortgage statements, showing every payment came from my own bank account, bank statements proving the savings I had accumulated since I was 18, employment records from my 8 years in cybersecurity, emails requesting help for my textbooks that were denied in favor of funding Melissa's education, and even screenshots of texts where I had said, "Love you guys." To show my ongoing attempts to maintain family harmony despite everything, my folder felt like a lifeboat, my only shield against a tidal wave of absurdity. When I arrived at the courthouse, the smell of old wood, leather, and faint disinfectant hit me. The air was thick, carrying the nervous tension of dozens of people waiting for their lives to be scrutinized under fluorescent lights. And then I saw them. My parents, Melissa, my aunt. They were all there, perfectly coordinated in matching t-shirts with huge bold letters, "Family First." I stopped dead in my tracks. My stomach twisted. Melissa, beaming with a sense of moral superiority, rushed toward me with arms wide open. "I forgive you for making us do this," she shouted. I instinctively stepped back. I let her stumble slightly. I couldn't hug her, not after everything, not after months of being accused of being selfish for buying my own house. Aunt started hissing under her breath, like some cartoonish villain. Ungrateful. I could feel her eyes boring into me, pure malice disguised as moral judgment. The judge called the hearing to order, and the reality of the situation hit me fully. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was a legal battlefield. My hands shook slightly as I placed my folder on the desk, took a deep breath, and prepared to defend everything I had worked for. Their lawyer went first. He was a thin, nervous man with a voice that tried to sound firm but trembled slightly under the weight of ridiculousness. Your Honor, my clients have invested their lives, their love, and substantial resources into raising the defendant. His sister, Melissa, faces significant student loan debt and housing insecurity. The defendant has the means to purchase another property easily. This case is about fundamental family values and supporting those in need. I felt my jaw tighten. The phrase fundamental family values hit me like a slap. 8 years of work, sacrifices, and careful planning were being reduced to a moralistic lecture. When it was my turn, I stood slowly, trying to calm the quiver in my voice. Your Honor, I bought a house with my own money. I saved for 8 years. I am the sole person on the mortgage. Every penny is mine. This is my property. That's it. The judge looked at me intently, like he had seen many bizarre cases, but sensed that this one might be something else entirely. He nodded for their lawyer to proceed with evidence. Their lawyer presented everything. Photo albums of family vacations from my childhood, Melissa's student loan statements totaling $180,000, spreadsheets claiming every dollar spent raising me, even down to a $12.99, McDonald's Happy Meal from 2003, screenshots of texts where I said, "Love you guys," as proof of my emotional bond. Melissa's TikTok videos and her plan to turn the house into an artist retreat. Like this somehow justified taking my property. I could feel my blood pressure rising. The room felt smaller, as if their arguments and the ridiculousness of the claim were closing in on me. I gritted my teeth and prepared my defense. I laid out my folder meticulously. Your Honor, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Every dollar spent on this house, every payment on the mortgage, every saved penny from my jobs since I was 18 came from my own work. I have been financially independent for over a decade. I went to community college, worked nights, paid for my own living expenses, and meticulously saved for this home. I have emails showing that when I requested help for textbooks, the response was, "We're focusing on Melissa's education right now." I have proof that I am fully capable of owning this property and that I earned it without any assistance for this purchase. This house is mine. The judge listened, nodding slowly, jotting down notes. Melissa squirmed in her chair, shifting uncomfortably as the reality that she might not just get this house without merit started to sink in. Then came the pivotal moment. The judge looked at Melissa. "Melissa, what is your current employment?" "I am in a transitional period, focusing on my artistic growth," she replied proudly. "Do you have any income?" Mom jumped in, desperately defending her daughter. "She's an artist, a digital content creator." The judge, unimpressed, asked, "And how much income does this generate?" "I'm building my brand. These things take time," Melissa said, her tone a mix of pride and expectation. The judge leaned forward, pinching the bridge of his nose, his tone sharp now. "Let me get this straight. You want your son, who has worked and saved for 8 years, to give his house to your daughter, who has no job, no income, and no plans to obtain either. And you expect him to continue paying the mortgage for this property while she benefits?" The courtroom was silent. Their lawyer looked down at his shoes, embarrassed. The tension was palpable. I could feel my chest expand with a mix of relief and disbelief. "I've heard enough," the judge said finally. "I will issue my ruling in writing within the week." 5 days later, the case was dismissed. Judge's words. "This case lacks any legal merit whatsoever." I should have felt relief. I should have felt joy. But outside the courthouse, reality hit like a freight train. My aunt screamed at me, her voice raw and venomous. "You are dead to the family. You will die alone in that house." Melissa collapsed onto the courthouse steps, wailing, "You've stolen my future." Mom, with tears streaming, declared, "You are no longer my son." Dad simply shook his head, muttering, "You've destroyed the family." I felt my hands trembling, my legs weak, but I walked to my car, refusing to engage. I had security cameras installed after I was first served the papers, and the footage showed Melissa approaching my car, looking around nervously, and then leaving. My aunt had tried to vandalize my property but ran away when motion sensor lights triggered. I filed a police report immediately, shaking, but relieved that at least some form of accountability existed. Returning home after the court victory, I expected relief, a sense of closure, maybe even a small celebration alone in my house with a quiet night and a cup of tea. But life, as it often does, has a sense of irony, because the real drama didn't end with the judge's dismissal. It exploded into every corner of my life, especially online. Social media had become a battlefield overnight. Melissa, never one to miss an opportunity to position herself as the victim, started a GoFundMe campaign titled, helped me buy the house after my brother stole my future, with a description accusing me of manipulating the legal system and abandoning the values our parents had instilled in me. I stared at the screen, jaw tight, trying to process the audacity. Her words painted me as the villain, the selfish, heartless sibling who not only refused to share but actively stole her future. People I didn't know were commenting, some sympathetic to her plight, others questioning the family dynamic, but it was exhausting. I documented everything, screenshots upon screenshots, mentally preparing for a potential civil suit, or, at the very least, using them as evidence for harassment. Meanwhile, my mom posted in local Facebook groups proclaiming my betrayal. One post read, "Some children forget where they came from. We gave him everything, our love, our support, our values, and this is how he repays us. A good son helps his family." It was surreal. I could almost hear her voice echoing in my living room, each word weighted with guilt, manipulation, and moral expectation. My aunt chimed in online, typing in all caps and exclamation marks, calling my behavior shameful and insisting that Melissa deserved the house more than my selfishness. Even Thanksgiving became a battlefield. My mom sent a text to the whole family. Due to recent events and my name's decision to harm his sister's future, he is not welcome at family gatherings until he does the right thing. I laughed quietly to myself, imagining a family dinner with the ghosts of morality watching me, waiting for me to apologize for existing. So I did what any sane adult would do. I ordered Chinese food, poured myself a beer, and watched football in my own home, surrounded by the things I had earned, savoring the quiet rebellion of peace. After the legal victory, I realized that the battle for my house wasn't over. There had been attempted vandalism. Melissa had approached my property suspiciously, and my aunt had been caught on camera sneaking near my driveway with a spray paint can. Motion sensor lights and security cameras became my shield. Every beep and flash of the cameras reminded me that freedom isn't free, it's earned, maintained, and protected. I filed a police report immediately, attaching all footage and timestamps. Sitting in my home office late at night, I watched the videos repeatedly, my mind racing with paranoia and relief simultaneously. The strange mix of fear and vindication is hard to describe, like standing at the edge of a cliff knowing there's a safety net beneath you, but still feeling the wind try to push you over. Meanwhile, the GoFundMe Melissa had started became a war zone online. Multiple people reported it for misrepresentation, and it was eventually put under review and frozen. My mom's Facebook posts were removed by several group administrators for harassment. Aunt's vague online threats were deleted after public backlash. I filed a restraining order, which gave me some temporary comfort, knowing that the law was now a buffer between me and the chaos that had once been my family. Interestingly, not all relatives sided with my parents. My cousin, who had always disliked Melissa, sent a text that changed the tenor of the family debate. "Didn't you guys pay for Melissa's $200,000 education while my name worked nights to afford community college? Now, you want his house too?" The floodgates opened. Other cousins and relatives started chiming in, recalling all the favoritism they had quietly witnessed for years. Uncle remembered when I asked for $200 for textbooks, but Melissa received a MacBook. Another cousin noted Melissa's $15,000 graduation party compared to my quiet dinner. Grandpa, finally, spoke what I had always known in my heart. "You two are disgraceful excuses for parents. My name succeeded despite you, not because of you." For the first time, I felt a small measure of vindication, not just legally, but morally. My hard work, my sacrifices, my years of patience, they were now recognized by someone outside the immediate circle of manipulation and favoritism. 3 months after the court case, I finally started to breathe again. I decided to continue legal precautions after the attempted vandalism. The restraining order against my aunt became permanent after she violated the temporary one. Formal cease and desist letters were sent. The GoFundMe was permanently shut down. My aunt received a warning at work for harassment via email. Small-town gossip spread like wildfire, but this time I was prepared. Half the family sided with me, a quarter stayed neutral, and only a quarter still believed I should have relinquished the house. 6 months after court, life began to feel normal. My parents were not speaking to me, which I accepted as necessary. I invested in security upgrades, installed better motion sensors, and added cameras around the perimeter of my property. I adopted Luna, a German Shepherd mix from the local shelter, and she became my companion and emotional anchor. Game nights with friends replaced the toxic family dinners I had endured. The laughter, the casual conversations, and the absence of judgment felt like freedom itself. Grandpa, finally, began visiting every Sunday, teaching me woodworking in the garage. He confided quietly that he had wanted to bond for years but was always blocked by my parents. I listened, absorbing every story, every lesson, and finally felt a generational connection I had been missing my entire life. Reflecting on everything, I realized something important. Some people should never be parents, or at least not in the way they think they should be. My parents, despite all their moralizing, all their lectures on family values, had tried to take what was rightfully mine, believing that their definition of justice justified betrayal. Melissa, caught in her own sense of entitlement, had briefly convinced herself she deserved what I had earned, and my aunt had poured hatred and judgment into a campaign of manipulation. Yet, here I am. I stand in my house, my home, my sanctuary. I have peace. I have a dog who loves me unconditionally. I have a grandfather who sees me truly, and friends who value me for me, not for my bank account or my compliance with a moralistic script. I realize that living well and setting boundaries is the ultimate victory. It's more powerful than any argument, any court ruling, or any social media outrage. And to anyone reading this, remember, sometimes the hardest thing you can do is say no to people you love, but it's also the most important thing for your own life. Health and sanity. I want to hear from you. Honestly, have you ever faced family pressure that seemed morally justified to them but completely unfair to you? Would you have represented yourself in a case like this, or tried to hire legal help despite the cost? How do you define boundaries in family relationships? And when is it okay to enforce them firmly? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. And remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, protecting your peace, and refusing to let anyone manipulate or guilt you into giving up what you've worked for. Thank you for staying with me until the end. How would you have acted in the protagonist's place? Write your thoughts in the comments. More fresh and controversial stories every day on my profile. Like and subscribe to this channel.